What up, what up, what up? Hey, everybody, hope you're doing well. Hey, I just want to let you know, I know everybody can't always support and donate to the podcast, but hey, if you can do a one-time donation, I put up a Buy Me a Coffee link in this description of the podcast. So if you go to the description of the podcast, it'll be at the bottom, and you can just go to that link, and you can buy me a cup of coffee, or two if you want. And that would just help support the show, and I can wake up a little bit more and bring you more info. So thanks for listening to the podcast. If you can donate, that would be much appreciated. And let's get on to the show. What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Lockdown Universe, home of the bizarre, peculiar, and unheard of stories of UFO legend and paranormal lore. Welcome back, welcome back. Happy to be back. Hopefully you guys are doing excellent and taking care of yourselves. Today we want to look at the quantum liquid that is potentially classified as the soul, and how the governments and alien species might be using this to place alien consciousness into human bodies, and how human bodies might also have their soul and have that come out during times of death. So let's take a look at this, because this is where it gets to be scientific. We're not just talking about theory, and we're not talking about, potential here, although we will a little bit. But when it comes down to it, there's been many different scientific studies testing different portions of death and when does the soul come out. Some tests will weigh the body after death to see if there's a weight to the soul, which some studies have come out and said there is a weight. Even though it's small, there is a weight to the soul. Some have stated, like the Awake study, where they tested individuals, or talked to individuals who died and then came back up to, anything past a minute later, right? Because those souls, those individuals would come out of their body and then have something to say. They would put pictures in the ceiling of hospitals, especially rooms where they were going to be doing operating rooms, right? They would put pictures in the ceiling. Only individuals who were part of the study would know what they were, and individuals who passed on and came back would be able to see what those were in the ceilings. So there was a lot of studies going on in regards to this in the early 2000s and all the way up through today. One really interesting movie came out, 17-minute movie. Okay, they call it short story, short movie. Came out in 2017 with a huge A-list class of actors, actresses. They had Minnie Driver, they had Marissa Tomei, and another one of my favorite guys. He comes out of oh gosh, what was that movie? Road Trip. Paulo Costanzo, the real intelligent guy who ends up making like a amazing strain of weed in that movie. But this movie is really fascinating. It's put out by a group called Dust, and they put out a lot of short movies in the sci-fi genre. You can actually go onto YouTube and watch this movie. And this one's called Laboratory Conditions. But it's got Marissa Tomei in it and Minnie Driver. I mean, these two are huge A-listers, and they're in this movie. And it's just great to see both of them. I mean, they're just both such high-class actresses. Now, this movie is about the transference of the soul, and kind of like body snatching individuals who are near death to do experiments on. It's really kind of interesting. Kind of had like Flatliner vibes to it. But the whole story revolves around Marissa Tomei's character, who's a doctor in a hospital. She's watching over a patient. This patient is near death, right? They're like, this patient's not going to make it through the night. This patient has like cirrhosis of the liver, just like all kinds of stuff that this guy just, kind of did to himself, right? He's alcoholic and all this stuff. But he was older too, and they wanted to find out, they wanted to try to keep him alive, right? They were just trying to keep him alive. Meanwhile, all of a sudden, she goes to check on him and he's gone. And she goes to her nurses and she's like, where's this patient? They're like, what? He was just there. And then they're like, oh no, wait, there's a transfer order in here. And then they call the transfer company and the transport company. The transport company's like, we don't know what you're talking about. So Marissa Tomei like runs out the back door where she thinks maybe people might have taken him, and follows this car, or I should say, ambulance. So it's like a bus, right? It's an ambulance. She follows this ambulance to this other location. So now she knows her patient's getting kidnapped, and she wants to find out what's going on. So Dr. Emma Holloway, who is Marissa Tomei, goes on the search. She goes into this building. She's walking down its dark hallway in leading up to these big red doors. She goes through these big red doors and she's confronted with this cage-like device where her patient is being put into and sealed into with a huge rectangular window and a metal steel door with, one of those wheel locks where you have to crank the wheel to lock the door. So like this thing is like looking airtight, right? And she's like, and she's looking around at these people who are clearly working on computers and clearly busy doing their things. There's about 15 people in this lab, and they're all running around. And all of a sudden, Paulo Costanzo's character, Robbins, confronts her. And he's like, what are you doing here? And she's like, I'm a doctor. You guys stole my patient. And she's like, unless you guys want to get brought up on charges, you better tell me what's going on. And I'm going to take this up with the head of neuro psychology, who happens to be Minnie Driver. And Minnie Driver's like, yeah, we got this under control. We are going to find out tonight whether or not the soul exists. And we have all these parameters in place in this cage where they put this guy. It's not really a cage, it's more like a room, but it's just like kind of like a shipping container with a window they can look into. They had everything you could want to evaluate and monitor somebody, especially on the soul level. They had electromagnetic sensors, they had oxygen sensors, they had weight sensors, they had electric sensors, they had just like everything you can think of, like infrared, just everything, just continually on and on and on. He just, Robin's character just keeps going on and on and on about it. But they're there. They're going to find out tonight what's going on. And, they even say that this is one of the most engaging screenplays you'll ever hear about because it's so real. Because this is like kind of where we're at with science. Minnie Driver's character, states that, hey, you know what? We're going to find that we're doing this whether you like it or not. And what's interesting is when they're monitoring him, he dies pretty quickly after this. So Marissa Tomei is looking in the window and she sees his soul come out of his body. So she has some sort of connection with him, okay? So she sees his soul coming out of his body. And she's like, do you guys see that? And nobody else in the laboratory can see it except for her, which is really fascinating. And they can only tell a small differential between the weight of him being alive and passing on. So there is a small weight differential, but other than that, there's not much in the room that they can sense. So he's clearly distraught. He comes up to the window, he sees Marissa Tomei, and he's like, help me. He's whispering the words, help me, because he's looking to the side and he's freaking out because he sees something, but we can't see what it is. And he's trying to get out. He's scratching at the window, and Marissa Tomei tells Robbins that you got to get this guy out of here. You got to open up the cage. It's kind of like a Faraday cage. You got to open up the cage because he can't get out. He can't pass on to heaven. And this is kind of going beyond the scope of where they're at now. Their whole purpose was to like sense that he was there, and none of them could do it with science, right? With all the sensors that they had, they couldn't tell if he was alive or not, or that his soul was there or not. Clearly he was passed. So Marissa Tomei knows that this guy's freaking out, that something's coming for him, and she's like, he's being the bait now, and he knows something's coming. I got to get him out of there. So she runs and she cranks on that wheel, and all of a sudden there's this spark and everything explodes. Their power goes down, and then they get it back up, and all of a sudden, the door. That's right. The door didn't open. She caused enough electric shock to the system or whatever that the power went down. But when the power went down, it also released all of those things, keeping him inside. They had this neural web that wouldn't even allow an electron out of it. So it was basically like a prism. And once the power went down, he was able to ascend out of this cage and go into the light. There was like this circle that opened up and the light, everything coming up. No one else could see this except for Marissa Tomei, so everybody thinks the soul's still in there. And they're like, the power's starting to come up, and on the screen, on their sensing screens, they can see that there's this bulge now in the cage, and it's bulging like there's a force. And they're like, "Oh, that must be the hand of God coming down to take him home." And she's like, "No, he's already gone." And she knows. And people in the room now, they're starting to feel a palpable sense of something going on. One of the scientists turns to Robinson. He's like, "Do you feel that? Do you feel that? It feels like evil. Do you feel that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I feel it too." So now there's this evil presence in the room, but they can't see anything. So Minnie Driver's like, I'm going in. I need to see what's going on with the patient. I need to see what's going on, see if there's a soul in there. Remember, this is Minnie Driver, who was the one saying, hey, we're going to do this whether you guys like it or not. She was the force behind this. She's the leader in this entire endeavor. She's like, I'm going to go in. And Robin's character's like, no, don't go in. Hang on a second, because he feels something evil. He's like, hang on, wait. And he asks Marissa Tomei, and this is the pivotal point of the episode, is that he asks her, he says, hey, do you see anything in there? What do you see? And she's looking in, and she sees all of these evil entities, all of these like disfigured characters, and is really, really like visually stunning, right? And they're inside of the cage, and they can't get out because the power's back on. And so they actually trapped these entities in there. And she's looking on, and she doesn't want this to ever happen again, right? Because they were trapping the soul in there. And Minnie Driver had made a statement saying, hey, this isn't going to be the only one. We're going to have many more of these experiments happen. So Marissa Tomei, after being asked many times, what's going on, what's in there, states, I don't see anything. I see nothing. Go open the doors. Let's find out what happens. Boom, end scene, end movie. This is what's so amazing about this story, and you should still watch it because it grasps you, and the way that it's shot and filmed is amazing. But it really relates to what we have going on with some of the stories that are coming out of the Air Force of Office of Special Investigations with Richard Doty, and I'll kind of tell you about that in a second. But it also has to do with our own personal search for humanity's soul. So let's examine this for a second. Okay, so clearly humanity, is interested minimally to find out if we have a soul. Secondly, we're interested to find out, is it really truly this liquid, this quantum liquid that we can just pour into another body and continue its existence? And then thirdly, is there an afterlife where the soul goes to, or is it just in a constant revolution of reincarnation? There's a lot of questions. But for some people who don't listen to the near-death stories that I talk about, they should listen to this one because it does have something to do with the Office of Special Investigations for the Air Force. Because in Richard Doty's episode that I did last night, he talks about how the aliens are creating individuals and bringing them to the planet. They're literally creating their consciousness, putting them into a human body with some alien DNA, and then allowing them to come down to Earth. So what does that mean? It means they can transfer consciousness. They can transfer consciousness, and they can create a human with alien DNA and talk to them while they're here and have an effect on their decision making, which is important to us as a human race. So this becomes not just a matter of individuals' belief in religion, or are we going to die, or are we going to have a soul, but it also has to do with whether or not our outcome of the human race is going to be dependent upon these alien species pouring their souls into these alien containers, these human containers, like the movie Avatar. where they created a body for them to pour into the consciousness, although the consciousness was like connected with like some technology, which, you know, is not that dissimilar from probably pouring a quantum liquid in. You'd have to have technology to do that. So is it possible? It seems to be the case. I just watched another episode of Richard Doty where he talked about another individual that they found that was similar to the girl last night, Katie Smith, who had alien DNA in her, and she was able to kind of predict the future. She was able to find others like her, and she was able to assist the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. There was another individual in this next episode where she was much like Katie, except that she had real physical encounters with her, with the Greys that were working with her, that were part of her species. Her species was alien as well, although she looked human, right? And the government continues to work with these individuals to make sure that they're not being manipulated in a negative way or a hostile way towards humanity. So, you see, when we talk about these near-death experience stories, we talk about the soul stories, we talk about the alien stories, and even paranormal stuff, it really does come together as a full circle. So it's important to gather as much info as you can that is reliable, because if you can piece these pieces of information together that are being given to us by officials that have worked within the government, then we can really say, okay, great, this is what I always thought, this is what I always believed, but now it's kind of being confirmed by these Office of Special Investigations officers, or these deep state individuals who are blowing the whistle on things, or even these enlisted members, right, who just happen to fall into these particular occurrences and witness them and bring them forward. So really fascinating stuff. I mean, I could go on and on and on about it. I do like to keep things short and sweet, but when it comes down to sci-fi, sci-fact, science fiction is only, it's only the idea that hasn't manifested itself yet, right? When it comes to our thoughts of traveling the universe, or our thoughts of being able to weigh or measure the soul, or discover, past lives, it's only a matter of time before we're able to have the technology to prove it or to do it. Much like flying into the stars, much like automobiles, much like, teleportation, it's only a matter of time. It's the idea and then the manifestation. So, I will leave it at that. Give yourself an opportunity this weekend if you can, especially in America for this long holiday season. Go check out that Laboratory Conditions 17-minute video. It's not even 17 minutes because there's credits. It's probably like 15 and a half. Do yourself a favor, go check it out, and then check out that Dust channel. It's a company apparently that's making these like short sci-fi videos. I think they're really interesting. Laboratory Conditions is the first one I saw, but man, talk about a great piece of film. So, anyway, guys, I hope you have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves physically, spiritually, emotionally. Follow through on your hobbies and your goals and your dreams. And as always, continue to question the universe around you. Until next time, guys, take care. Lockdown Universe out.